Just to give you an idea, some of the major uranium mines are in Africa, but most, other than South Africa, you have no nation having nuclear power plants. And you are virtually asking a whole continent to export its resources to help the rest of the world. I think is not fair. Well, I come from the nuclear sector, and it is a bit frustrating to find that nuclear, except for you, sir, had not been on the horizon. I would like to put what you call quote Edison, that yes, success requires 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration, but we seem to be in the 1% hype for many new technologies. Well, no matter what has happened around the world, one thing has been sure, that the demand for electricity has kept on increasing. You see the milestones in red, the bad milestones. But even the gradient hasn't changed much. So we are going to have this need for a long time to come. And nuclear has followed the trend, in spite of accidents like 3 Mile Island and Chernobyl, which have given it a bad name, and Fukushima. But please remember that to date, no one has died because of radiation. So unfortunately, because of the hype that comes, people have forgotten the tragedy of those tens of thousands of people who died because of the tsunami and the earthquake, and it has become a nuclear issue. And when we were in discussion with the Japanese government, one of the saddest things I could hear from a minister was that he said that we were rich enough that if my experts had agreed that this would be the size of the wave that may come, I would have built a wall to save those people. Now, this is the data, not from Atomic Energy, but from the IEA for the 2-degree scenario. And as you may notice, nuclear is the largest. So if you have any hope of ever achieving the 2-degree centigrade target, nuclear needs to play a big role. And whilst we do need all, because the demand for electricity is so high, so I am not saying that we are in competition or displacement mode, any of the sectors. We are saying that we are in a cooperative mode, but we have to be into a sensible mode. We should not be on that 1% of hype and say that we have reached there. The reason why this is necessary is because if you see in the scenario, carbon capture is very essential. It's a technology, if not achieved, we are not going to achieve this 2 degrees. The other renewables, unfortunately, also need to answer both in economics and connectivity. And if we don't see that in an honest way, well, if we do not pay the price, our children will. I do not know how many of you would be surprised by this, but nuclear in life cycle has a much lower carbon content than almost everybody else. And I would like to draw this. These are the margins of various researches done. And these researches are not done by us. So what I'm trying to say is that you could have 1400 as the base value for lignite, though the average value is this much. Nuclear seems to be most stable, and wind. Well, I wish the wind blew 24 hours. I would also like to bring to your notice that in terms of safety, no matter what the press says, the truth is that nuclear has the best safety record. If you talk in terawatt hours per year, coal, well, this is a debate, but if you take the major coal accidents, then this would rise to about 6. If you take the major hydro accidents, that is where you are. So this is, again, not to say that one is better than the other. It is just to bring, let us say, logic back into the debate. Well, some of it is quite obvious. I think this should be the most revealing slide that I have, that people who are lucky, like Brazil, who can develop a lot of hydro, can be very green even just now. And therefore, you have to be lucky. But if you aren't, then you could be like France, for instance, and develop a technology that will give you perhaps low carbon emission generation. So essentially, if you find that these resource-rich countries are able to develop hydro, you still have to be sure that nuclear affords you this development independent of your geography virtually. And just to bring into perspective, today we have the largest number of reactors being built in the last 25 years. This is post-Chernobyl, post-Fukushima. Of course, China leads the way. I wish my country was also somewhere here, but these are the reactors that are being built. And virtually it has become, in India, I remember when we were working for the Atomic Energy Commission, we felt that if I commissioned a reactor a year, I was great. China has been commissioning a reactor a week. So I think there are a lot of things to be learned. Economics, I can give you a lot of figures. I'm speaking in Bangkok next month at an ASEAN conference where we are trying to talk of nuclear as a very competitive technology even in a country like Thailand or the Southeast Asia region. What are we? Fuel costs are very low, therefore it is less vulnerable to many other variations. It also provides you security because the volume of fuel required is very low. You don't need the support of the railways, for instance, to run a nuclear power plant. The problem has been the upfront cost. But in assessing the economics, I am very thankful to the last speaker that he showed that the requirement was, I need power supply that is available to me 24/7. We are in one of the biggest cities of the country, which calls itself the powerhouse of technology. And in my hotel, in the last 2 days, power has gone 6 times. I lived in Tokyo for many years. In those 6 years, power never went. At that time, TEPCO was the world's largest company by revenue. Today it is in trouble because of Fukushima. But we need to realize that this is a 40-year-old reactor. If you have a 40-year-old car, you put your key to it, the engine came on, you would say yes. If you put your foot on the pedal, it attained full speed, you would say well maintained. If a train hit it and no one in the car died, you would say it's a safe thing. That's exactly what Fukushima was. A 40-year-old reactor hit by one of the strongest natural events, and you treat it like There was a Chiba fire, for instance, at that time. So I think we need to be sensible. We need to say and understand the risks involved and at least make sure within the fraternity that we remain logical.
You may come to an end, please.
Thank you very much.